Federal Gun Regulations in the United States by Grace Gilardi.
Abby Massey.
Jessica Neal.
To start us off, Jessica will be talking about the political lens, then I will go into the social lens, and to finish us off, Abby will tell you about that lens.
39,000. This is the number of deaths caused by mass shootings in America. With this number being so high, people are calling upon the government to take action so that this number does not increase. This leads us to the two main political parties. Democrats versus Republicans. Since the early 1970s, the Democrats have supported gun control and have made more efforts to push on gun regulations. They've passed twice as many gun regulating laws as the Republicans did last year. They passed certain laws like the Brady Bill, passed by former President Bill Clinton, which calls for more restricted background checks. Then the Republicans. For a very long time, the Republicans have leaned more away from gun control, and they push for more enforcement of the laws already placed. They still, though, passed 18 laws last year regulating guns. The Shoe versus Malloy case. Adam Lanza, a 20-year-old, diagnosed with anorexia, OCD, and anxiety, which may have affected his mental state at the time, committed a mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School on December 4th of 2012. This raised the legal issue Shoe versus Malloy when Connecticut decided to ban assault weapons. The legal issue raised by Shoe versus Malloy was whether the Connecticut law violated the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The resolution in 2015 and the Shoe versus Malloy case, the U.S. Court of Appeals upheld the Connecticut law banning assault weapons as constitutional. Some possible solutions and recommendations are banning guns in America to everyone except for law enforcement. Though some may disagree with this, saying their Second Amendment right is being taken away, and some might not trust law enforcement to be the only ones with guns in America. Also, not allowing any ex-convicts to have a gun. This would be very difficult and nearly impossible, though, to get a gun out of every ex-convict in America, and they could still get guns illegally through the black market. Lastly, banning assault weapons, but allowing handguns for self-protection for those who feel they need it, but still no assault weapons. Hunters are people who wouldn't find this fair because they use rifles in their everyday life, and they might not want that taken away.
Income inequality is significantly associated with 3 or more victim-related injuries and 4 or more victim-related deaths. This means that if someone has income inequality or lives in a low-income neighborhood, they are in an environment that makes them more likely to be affected by a mass shooting. This matters because if mass shootings are occurring in these areas, this means that Americans are being affected, and we are trying to protect all Americans from mass shootings. A possible solution to this is funding low-income neighborhoods. This would result in the possibility of lifting these neighborhoods out of poverty and decreasing the amount of mass shootings. This is because the limitation is it would increase taxpayer dollars in order for funding. Therefore, many Americans wouldn't be in favor of this implementation because part of their money would be going towards something that may not work. According to Sarah Jones, a writer at New York Magazine, says research suggests that people with a mental illness are more likely to commit suicide rather than they are to kill others if they have access to firearms. This means that an individual with a mental illness are more likely to commit suicide than they are to hurt other people. Thus, a person who commits a mass shooting may not have a mental illness. This can convince Americans to focus on the real issue, which could be gun laws. Although Nicholas Cruz, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas high school shooter, was medically diagnosed with a mental illness by doctors, and he also ingested gasoline in an effort to commit suicide, and together he committed one of the largest high school shootings in U.S. history.
So another case study is the case of Alvaro Castillo. He was actually admitted into a hospital due to showing so many symptoms of mental illnesses, and he was diagnosed with psychotic disorder, paranoid delusions, and hallucination. The professionals in the hospital actually gave him medications to treat these symptoms. However, he didn't take them, and therefore the symptoms did not improve. And several months after he was released from the hospital, he went to Walmart and purchased a 12-gauge pump-action shotgun. And this was actually the gun that he used to murder his father, injure several students at Orange High School, which was a school he attended, and he even used it to attempt his own suicide. And we'll be coming back to this case momentarily. A second case is the Virginia Tech shooting, in which 32 people were killed. The shooter in this event, he was actually deemed by the court itself as dangerous to himself and others. And this actually happened before he was able to purchase the gun he used to kill these 32 people. And an analysis of the case actually found that this was because his records were never submitted to the NICS. So the NICS is the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, and this system ensures that if somebody has a mental illness or if they have a criminal history, this will show up on their background check when they go to purchase a gun. So therefore, the Virginia Tech shooter was able to pass several background checks, and the ruling that he was a danger to himself and others actually did not show up, which was why he was legally allowed to buy it. This also connects back, well, potentially could connect back to Alvaro Castillo's case. Although it has not been confirmed, he was still able to very easily purchase a gun despite his multiple severe mental illnesses. And he should not have been legally able to purchase a gun, yet he was still able to, which could possibly be a result of his reports not being properly handled by the government as well. But of course, with the NICS does come the question of constitutionality. The NICS does technically go against the individual right theory, which is a theory that states that all American citizens have the right to bear arms. And by excluding people who are mentally ill or people who have a criminal history from buying a gun, you are technically going against the idea of everybody having that right. However, the laws that have been made to prohibit these people from buying guns and the NICS itself, these weren't created to discriminate. They weren't created to keep people from buying guns just because of their mental illness or their backstory. They actually were made to protect American citizens, and like Grace mentioned, people who are mentally ill are more likely to bring harm to themselves. And these laws aren't just made to protect people who might be victims to a mass shootings, they're also made to protect people who are more inclined to harm themselves. So our overarching solution to this problem are new or improved mental health reporting laws. These laws would ensure that more of people's mental illnesses and more of their criminal histories would show up on their background checks. And as a matter of fact, 35 states in the U.S. have already passed new laws, while 16 have improved them. And as a result of this, gun sale denials have increased by 11 times. And when you really get down to it, if the Virginia Tech shooter had been denied a gun, that would have been one denial saving 32 lives. So imagine multiplying that by 11 times and how many lives could be saved then.
The rebuttal is that due to the media's influence, many people still think that the root of the problem for mass shootings is a gun problem, when it's clear that it's a mental health problem. And although technically the gun is what kills a person, the person who shoots it is the real cause. And so focusing on mental health and not necessarily gun laws would be productive.
Okay, ladies, Jessica, I'm going to start with you first. So describe how the content of the team presentation was changed as a result of group discussion.
Okay, so when we first started synthesizing our IRRs, we didn't have too much about mental illness. We had a lot about gun laws and things like that. But mental illness, when you look at it, it's the real cause of people, because like Grace said, it's not the gun. I mean, it is killing the people, but it's the person behind it who's shooting it is really. So then we all kind of implemented mental illness, how I didn't even know that Adam Lanza, the Sandy Hook school shooter, had mental illnesses, and it just goes to show multiple mass shootings have people behind them who are mentally ill.
Abby, in the future, what change would you make to your own group norms, and how would you expect that to improve the team presentation?
I think that we probably should have met up a lot more often than we did because we only met up one time as an entire group outside of school. And I think if we would have had more time to really rehearse this and really find ways to analyze the data that we found, I think it would have really benefited our argument and enhanced our overall presentation.
Okay, thank you. Finally, Grace, what's an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' individual reports that you actually decided to exclude from your team presentation, and then why?
So in Jessica's IRR, she talked about President Trump's views on gun laws and mass shootings, but we decided to not include that since he is a Republican, and I think the audience could make the connection of what he believed in.
Okay.